Welcome to Costly Conversations. My name is Aaron, and tonight we're going to be having a discussion with a friend of the show at this point. You've seen him, hopefully, in some previous episodes where we talk about the one and only Rostic Arms out of Michigan. Tonight we're talking to Daryle Rostic, the owner, proprietor, the guy who started it all over there. And of course, when his name is up in lights one day soon, you're going to be like, wow, we saw him there. We saw him there. We saw him there
Absolutely.
real early. So here's the thing. Once upon a time, he was a youngster. He was what you might call lost, not doing the right thing, kid on the street, not really living a good path. I'll just put it like that. But how did he go from just a regular kid about to be a statistic to a youth pastor to entrepreneur in the firearm space, respected by his peers? How did he do that? And is it possible for you? Let's go ahead and get into it. Daryle Rostic, welcome to the show. Welcome back.
What's up, brother? What's up?
Man, good to have you on. As always, I enjoy speaking with you. And according to you, you enjoy being here. So let's do it again.
Man, I love it. I love it, man. I promise when my name is in lights, everybody else gonna have to pay a ticket to talk to me. But I'm always keep it costly, brother. That's my word.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Man, so even right behind you, I'm gonna just give you the screen for a second. You have your rifles on the wall, according to YouTube and whatnot. For those who are listening, you can't see them, but hop over to YouTube and you can see the background. We got some of the rifles. We got a couple lowers, rifles, one of the handguns, and of course the motto. I don't know if it's a motto, mission statement, whatever it says. Our rifles are, and the just as is crossed out, and our rifles are good. Now,
Absolutely. That's what we live by, bro.
before we hop into your story of how you got it out the mud, as the kids say, what does that mean to you? Our rifles are just as crossed out good. Why do you feel the need to say that?
Because my team especially, we get a lot of inquiries that people ask us things like, well, why would I buy you if I could get a PSA for this price or a BCM for this price? And I noticed their argument back and forth with the customer would be that our stuff is just as good. And so that started becoming the mantra for our company. It was like, well, we're just as good as BCM, or we're just as good as Sons of Liberty Gunworks. Till one day I kind of really had to call the team huddle and say, bro, stop saying that. Like, we are not just as good. We're good. Like, we deserve our own space in the industry. And if you get lost in the game of comparison, you lost. We can't mass produce like PSA. We don't have the brand notoriety like some of these other bigger brands. So we know we got to push from the ground up. Like, stop saying we're just as good as anybody else. Like, nothing in my life would I ever call just as good as something else. Like, my life was good. And so that's the mantra that I taught my team is our rifles are good. Like, we're not just as good as anybody. We are good in our own right. And that's our job to make sure that the customer knows that.
That's excellent, bro. I'm really glad that you clarified that point because you know anytime you're shopping, especially when you're buying something that's less known, like for instance
Mm-hmm.
CZ, not to reference another manufacturer, um, the guys who
Oh,
like CZ will say, "Oh man, it's even better. It's better." They like they feel
mhm.
like they feel the need because Glock and some of the main brands have had such a chokehold on the industry and in the market of guns, if you want to call it an industry, that
Right.
you have to like play the game of comparison. Well, no, this is better. No, that's better. And oh, they've been doing this forever. Now we're doing these things, and this has got better ergonomics. It's like, well, we don't have to get lost in the nitty gritty, but you do have to recognize that it's good, it's quality, it's solid. It's a small team putting together a reputable product, and we were talking about Rostic, and yeah, I think that understanding for yourself and for making sure that the people who work with you and work for you understand, like, hey, let's not get lost in the sauce. Our stuff is good.
Right.
You know, we have to feel like we're trying to fight giants. We're trying to do our own thing. That's awesome.
That's
I love
it,
it.
man. One of
Um,
the one of my favorite quotes from one of my mentors is he used to always say, comparison is a poor man's sport. And
hmm,
I used to take offense to that because I used to compare a lot of stuff. So I'm like,
yeah,
what do you really mean it's a poor man's sport? And he's like, comparison is a poor man's sport because the best in any industry is only focused on being the best. And I was like, yeah, and then it makes you think about like why hasn't Glock really innovated, right? But yet they still sell out numbers like they just came out. And it's
right.
like, okay, so
It's
now
incredible.
my wheels got to turning like, maybe. And he was like, I mean, even as a consumer, he was like, consumers who know what they want buy what they want. They don't spend a lot of time comparing prices. They don't spend a lot of time. If they know what they want, they figure out what it costs, and then they just buy what they want. And so, even in our marketing now for the company, we don't ever compare ourselves to anybody. We just do our best to show you this is why this is what you want. And so we've really taken that and ran with it because, you know, I mean, no matter what facet of life you look at it, the fans, the sports analysts, they're comparing athletes all day. Um, Athletes just get paid to play. And the richest person in the whole scenario is the athlete that everybody else is comparing. And so I want to be that person who says, as long as we're giving the customer the best we could do, we don't got to play the comparison sport. Like that's a sport we don't have to participate in.
Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about specifically where you're I guess where you came from. Because for those who don't know, if they weren't paying attention, they literally just hopped in the stream. You're a rifles manufacturer, excuse me, out of Michigan. You started
Yep.
more recently than the others. That's just the name of the business. And
Mm-hmm.
you're doing a darn good job putting out some real sweet looking guns. I really, really liked like an old school camo look that you did. It was like offset with black furniture. What do
Mm-hmm.
you call that one?
Um, I think it's just a woodland camo pattern,
Yep,
but
yep, yep. Hmm.
yeah,
That's the one,
it's that
man,
customer will be in the stream tonight. He was very, very excited about his rifle.
bro. That was so good. I was like, man, I got to get me one of those. Oh man. So unfortunately, we won't be able to link directly to the website from here. But if somebody wanted to know how to find your stuff, it is under Rostic Arms if they wanted to look you up.
Yep, yep, yep. They can do
Simple
that.
enough.
And then if you check us on Instagram, you could just hit the link in my bio. I got like a little link tree set up where they can go. It'll
Yeah.
take them where they need to go.
Okay, yeah, so we can do the link for your Instagram for those who are with us live. And of course, if you're on the podcast side, I will do my best to make sure it's in the show notes for those who are curious and want to hop into it. So, as a rifle manufacturer, you didn't start here. Once upon a time, you were a wee lad in Florida. They would call you a jit. I was never comfortable with that word. It's kind of weird. Only people in Florida come up with names like that. At least I think so. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. But what what was your home life like? What was, I guess, your surroundings like? Because apparently you can have the best parents in the world and still run into issues if the influences outside of your home, the immediate influences, are tough. What was your life
Hmm.
like as an adolescent? Let's say between 10 and 12 years old, or even younger.
So I grew up on the southeast side of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Grand Rapids, Michigan is growing. It's becoming like the mecca town of Michigan. It wasn't always like that. And we always call it the tale of two cities for real because if Forbes says this is the number one place to live in the country, if you go to anybody in the hood on the southeast side, they may tell you something different or on the west side. So I grew up inner city like everybody else. My dad was in and out. Um, I had a ton of half siblings. I don't call them half siblings, but just for the state of the facts. But I got a ton of siblings, man. I think it's well over 20 of us. So, um, and they were kind of in and out my life too. I mean, it was just broke, bro. Like, it was just the typical family trying to survive, trying to stay above the poverty line. Wasn't doing the best job of it. You know, no fault to my mom's. Rest in peace to her. Um, like we're just trying to survive, bro, and that's really the name of the game for a lot of people. And so, as a youngin, I was never. I was always the cool type. I was never the street type. I was never the. We was broke, so with all the siblings I had, we never had the newest nothing. I used to actually, once my older brothers started hustling, I used to steal their clothes when they went to work or they went to the block, whatever. I would dip and steal their stuff and rock it to school. They have to hurry up and put it back before they got home. And like that was just the life, man. We was cool trying to survive. We didn't have much, but I wasn't exposed to much, so I didn't even realize how broke we were. Um, because we always just had each other. And as long as we ate every day, as long as we could go to the park and hoop, um, long as I kept my knuckle game nice, we was all right. So that's kind of how I grew up, man. I grew up around seeing a lot. There's a lot of hustlers outside, and that really wasn't me though. I was like the church kid that be like, my brothers was into everything, and it was like people wouldn't touch me because they knew who my brothers were. So I kind of had it easy in that regard. But man, just watching and observing now, I can correlate business knowledge I have to those watching the hustlers move back in the day, watching how they stashed money, watching how they only spent 30% of everything they made. Like at 10, 12, I was seeing this type of stuff and learning that type of game. And so it's just a blessing now that I get to kind of live that. But that's really how I grew up. And nobody was really into the deep, deep streets until I got a little older.
Fair. Okay. So one thing that you said that really stuck out to me was no one would touch you because they knew who your brothers were. And I didn't have older brothers. I had an older sister, so life didn't really work like that for me. My sister never went to the same schools as me, so like if I got into issues, like I got into issues. Now, if she ever found out, you know, that would be one
Yeah.
of the issues, right? Like I'm trying to protect you. Like, don't mess with me because I don't want to have to go home and tell her because like she's a warrior at heart. You know what I mean? But
Hmm.
um, I can't. It's like I almost can't even relate because having older brothers, like there's got to be something, nothing like it. I know for me, just as a young man, I'm almost 30 right now, and anytime I meet like an OG, like an older gentleman who's got his head on straight, only if he's got his head on straight, because there's some weirdo old dudes who are just like,
Yep, yep.
really, you still on this, bro? You're like 68. What are you doing? You know. So I know you met people like that. And it's just like, wow, some
Oh
people never
man,
grow
my
up.
pops is like that. My pops is an OG through and through, man. But he a
Mm-hmm.
hustler, man.
Mm-hmm.
He'll be 69 this year. He still move how he move. I love my dad, man. I love my dad. Shout out to my pops. If he ever see this, man, I love that he is consistent in what he consistent in. So
Mm-hmm. Shout out to pops. But I know just as a younger guy, you do look to older dudes to kind of like show you the way, like show me the path. And
mm,
even in the firearm space, it's confusing because there's not like a school you can go to teach you how to navigate in the social media sphere. Because for those who don't know, you also are the host of the Smart Shooters, everything from like YouTube to Instagram, which
yep,
is it's a school for firearms training, but it's also a YouTube channel where you showcase some of the newest guns and things that you've got into the shop that you're experimenting with. But so like for me, even now, this is just me oversharing, right? I'm just like hungry for that that thing you can latch onto, that older dude who can kind of show you the way, and it's hard to find.
Yeah.
But for
Yeah.
you, how is that for you having older brothers who, I don't know if you could talk to them or anything like that, or if they were just like, hey, bro, like go do your thing, I'm doing my thing. I know you said they went out to the block. Sometimes they went out to a job, depending on, I guess, the season of life. Did
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
feel that you could reach out to them for stuff, or have a conversation? Like, how deep could you go with those guys?
I mean, my brothers were very protective in keeping me out of stuff. Like they didn't want me. It was like, you're not even built to be on the block. Like we don't want you out here. And so I could always kick it with them. Like I always could kick it with them. But my brothers all did a lot of prison time, and so it would be like I would be kicking it with my brother, and then um, boom, bank robbery charge. He's gone for 7 years. Or I kick it with another one of my brothers. Boom, assault with intent to do great bodily harm. He's gone for 4 years. And it's kind of been that way my whole life. So it was like as long as they were around, it was cool. But I never knew when I would come home from school and find out one of them went back to jail, or one of them had to get out of town, or you know what I mean. And so because I mean my brothers, they real dudes, like they really lived that life, and it was honorable to see. But I always remember thinking like, bro, it's gotta be a better way. It's gotta be a better way. Like um they was my superheroes growing up, bro. Like there was nothing they couldn't go through. But eventually I got to the mindset of, bro, it's got to be some other battles we can go through.
Hmm.
Like, it can't just be this.
Yeah. As a young man myself, I encountered different people that I looked up to or that I had a relationship with. And I remember there being a certain sense of anxiety or a certain sense of dread, knowing that, okay, I'm 14 at the time. There's literally nothing I can do to help this person. They're all the way over there. I can't do anything for them, like close friends who are going through stuff. And it's like, man, who can I even tell? Like, who can I tell? And it's not like for you, you could go, tell a teacher, hey, my brother is going through some stuff,
Right,
or some stuff that maybe hasn't even come out yet. Like it's not in the news or anything. It's like, hey, something's going on, and I don't know what to do, because that could put your people in problems.
right,
How
right.
did you feel that same anxiety that I felt, or is it something else entirely? Like, how did you deal
Um,
with that stress?
well, my brothers, man, shout out to my brother Derek. I learned so much from him. He at an early age, he always taught us about basically standing on our decision and embracing the consequences. So it could be something as simple as uh such and such said he wanted to meet at the park to fight today. And he would like look us in the face and say, hey, listen, you know the consequences that could come from this, right? One, if you start losing, we're jumping in and it's gonna be problems. And if you win, he could come back with his people and his whatever. So we can do that route, or we can go in the house, play the game, and forget it. Let him be mad about what he mad about. Like he was very good at making sure he articulated, we can take any route, but what we not gonna do is get into it and then we gonna cry from when the consequences come. Like these are all the consequences up front. Is what we're about to do worth all those bad things happening? And if so, then let's go do it. And if not, let's go play the video game and figure out another way. And I mean, that's something to this day I live by. I raise my son the same way. Like, hey, listen, you're going to be angry. You're going to want to do things out of your anger. These are the consequences. If what you want to do is worth all of the potential consequences, then by all means, go do it. And just know you got to see me when you're done for these consequences. But if it's not, if there's one thought in your head that, man, I really don't want to endure this consequence, let's figure out something else. And that's, I mean, even to my firearm students, I teach the same philosophy. Hey, listen, using your firearm in self defense, even if you did it right, could lead to all of these things. It could lead to all of these consequences There are people who did it right and still went to jail. If you have even 1 second to think that, man, I really don't want to go to jail in this moment, it's probably an alternative route that you could take, including taking the beat down. That might be the option at this point, right? Like, so, to get back to what you asking me, bro, I didn't really have that anxiety because at an early age, we were all taught and pushed to stand on our decisions. If you want to do this, let's do it. But don't cry when we in the back of a squad car because this is the decision that we made collectively. You knew this was one of the outcomes. And so, again, I try to relate that to my kids, my students, everybody this day. If you got even 1 second to think you don't want the consequence involved, that's your sign to figure out something else.
Wow. I I think that's interesting, and I'm glad that you said that because there's a lot of us who, like you said, even in the gun world, and we're learning how to shoot or learning how to handle some of the self defense encounters that may or may not come our way. Like you said, like hey, if you have a moment of hesitation that says I don't want to do this, and obviously nobody wants to get into a gunfight. Like
Right.
nobody sane wants to get into a gunfight. That's one of those things where it's like I don't want it. But if you don't have that, I know that this is the path that I have to go on. Like do something, do something different. Because
Absolutely.
first of all, you bring a firearm into this conflict if there's not one already presented, and there's going to be a loss of life. Just automatically believe that, even if there's statistics that say, "Oh, you can survive." Forget all that. Going to be a loss of life. Can you live with that?
Right.
Are you going to have nightmares because you did something that you didn't want to do? Are you going to have that
Mm-hmm.
feeling of regret? And obviously, I don't want to speak on that too much because people do have PTSD from things that they had to do, right? But I find that fascinating, just the way you describe that. Um, I suppose the thought process that I have right now, or the thoughts that are coming to mind, are man, these are the influences that Daryle Rostic had. Daryle Rostic, his older brothers were kind of into some stuff. These were his heroes. They told you not to do it, but a lot of you watch movies, right? And people in real life who their family tried to
Mm-hmm.
keep them out of stuff, and they still find a way to get in.
Mm-hmm.
They went around their back. They went somewhere else and got into the game, and now they're selling dope and they're 39, and they're still doing dirt.
Right.
And he's like, bro, like, come
Right.
on, bro, you're 39, do
Right.
something different. But what would you say? What kept you? Like, was it them saying so, or like was there something else that actually like kept you out of the street life?
My mom was God rest her soul. My mom was a youth teacher in church in our city. She comes from a big family that had one of the biggest churches in the 80s and early 90s, and so there was this. There was always a toss up. There was always this. Like you're a church kid, you shouldn't be out here. And the older homies knew that, right? They respected that. And so, despite my dad and the man he was and my brothers, they always knew, like, no, you're different. Like, you're Karen's son. You're a church boy. Like, so even when I tried to, at early ages, like, be outside, they're like, what are you doing here? Like, go in the house. You know what I mean? And my dad was very protective over me and my younger siblings. He wouldn't have us out there anyway, but we still try to sneak out or hang and kick it, or even like little stuff like sagging my pants or whatever. Like the OGs used to be like, bro, go home. Like you don't belong nowhere out here. So it was like it was like that. I wasn't even allowed to be that type of guy. It wasn't until I got to my 16, 17 years old, and all my older brothers were in prison, that I really, like, my life really started changing. And then it was like, well, now I kind of got to be outside because there's nobody else to do it.
Right. So, for those who don't know, at some point you became a youth pastor. How do we go
Yeah.
from okay, 16, 17? we got to be outside. We got to, bring in a little money. We got to do these things to now youth pastoring at some sort of church. I don't know, like where did you youth pastor? You could explain that when you get to the story. But how did we transition from we outside to ministry, like doing the Lord's work?
That's real. So, uh, my late teen years, like I said, 15, 16, 17, my mom is struggling with congestive heart failure. And every day I'm going to school, I don't know if my mom's going to be at home or if she's even going to be alive. And it put me in such a mental place where I was just like, I'm just going to do what I got to do. And whatever I got to do is, that's just what it is. And so I carried myself like that. As I graduated high school, I met my wife, and we started dating. And she's telling me the whole time, like, this street thing, like, I'm not saying you're not with it. I'm just saying that's not you. And I used to get mad, like, what you mean you don't know the work I put in? Like, yo, yo, let's go. I can take you to some hoods right now. If they see my car pull up, they running. And she like, that's cool, but that's not you. And I used to get so mad. And so my wife, she used to go to church with me every now and then because that was my foundation. That was what I knew. So when the block was slow, when I was in between jobs, whatever, life wasn't right, I always knew to go back to church. Um, Fast forward to 2011, the end of 2011, my mom passes away. And I feel like the ultimate failure because my mom passed away in public housing, or subsidized housing. I didn't get the chance to take care of her the way I knew I would be able to. So I just really go off the deep end, man. Like I'm drinking 8 times a day. I'm blowing money on whatever. Like, and my wife is staying behind me, but she don't know how I'm gonna be when she gets out of work. If I'm gonna be drunk, too drunk to go to work, or what. So my life just hits this downward spiral. And one day, I just wake up like, yo, we gotta go back to church. Like, it's not working. These jobs I'm working, these factory jobs ain't cutting it. The streets ain't cutting it. The money ain't right. People telling. I couldn't do nothing if I wanted to. So we go back to church and shout out to my pastor, Jerome Glenn. Um, the message that he gave that Sunday was just like it's not too late for you. You can come back. Like, you know, you're supposed to be in this. You can come back. So I was like, I done tried everything else. Like, I dabbled in hustling. I dabbled in being the muscle, right? Because that's really who I was in my crew. I'm 6'5", 300 pounds. I was the muscle. Like, you called me when something went wrong. Like, I wasn't necessarily out here every day like that. I was at work, but if the homies called me, said it was an issue, I was pulling up. And even again, all them encounters, my wife was like, that's not you. So I give my life to God. I said, okay, God, I'm going to try it one more time. Because I hate church, because everybody in church is broke. Everybody, they testifying about getting the water bill paid. Like, you shouldn't need
Dang,
God to pay a water bill. You should just be able to pay your water bill.
dang, that's crazy that you had that realization, or that your mindset shifted because you're the entrepreneurial type. Like you go out and you get it and you get it done. And I think just as somebody who church plays a big part in my life, I love the Lord and He's done a lot for me. The idea that like you don't have to have a broke mentality, that's really powerful.
Bro,
That's really powerful.
it, this pastor, when I tell you he changed my life, bro, he helped me understand that God did not intend us to be broke. And that is the gospel that a lot of people preach is, oh, we have to live this life of sacrifice and we're in poverty, but the Lord will provide. And it's like, this pastor was the first person like, yeah, the Lord will provide, but you have the means to provide. Let God put his super on your natural, not you do nothing and hope something supernatural happens. And so I'm like, yo, I'm buying into this doctrine. Like, let's get it. Like, this sounds like what I've been looking for. And so I joined the church. Me and my wife are getting involved. We're part of church community, then they get the opportunities to serve. Like so, I always was taught. My mom taught me early, like you gotta add value wherever you go. So I'm like, all right, I want to serve. How can I get involved with the church? Then they were like, you're very good at educating. Maybe you should be a teacher. And I'm like, nah, I'm straight. I'm big. I'm 6'5". Let me just do something like security. So they put me on a security team. I'm loving it. I got a band of brothers. It reminds me a lot of the street without the riffraff. And so I'm like, cool, this is dope because of who I am personally. I'm looking after the church. People can worship freely because I'm on guard, right? But the kids just love me. My mom was a youth pastor. And I don't know what kids, and maybe it's the light. I say it's the light of God. Everywhere I go, kids love me. I can go to a grocery store now, and a baby will reach out of a mom's cart and try to come to me. Like it's crazy. So the kids just kept flocking to me, and then they made me the head security over the youth center, and so the kids are loving me. And then I still got the hustler mentality, right? So I am I'm walking these kids to the store. Every week, my wife is laughing at me. I'm blowing $50, $60 at the corner store, just taking all the kids after church. Get whatever y'all want. It's on me. Like it's I got it. And then my pastor is getting wind of this, and then he's seeing it. And every chance the kids got, they like, "Where's Mr. Daryle? Where's Mr. Daryle?" He was like, "You ever think about working with the kids?" And I was like teaching? Like my mom did that and I used to help her, but like, nah. He like, I think you missing where you supposed to be. Man, they put me back there to teach them kids and I loved it, bro. And then from there, I worked my way to a leadership position in the church. But working with them kids, I loved it because kids are so innocent, man. Kids have such a pure heart. And if I know from being in the streets that when you don't nurture that, I know which way it goes. So I was like, what if I just invested in that every week? Every week, twice a week, I get a touch point with these kids. And I mean, we're making it happen, bro. Like youth ministry at our church was off the chain. Like we're not just singing songs and sit down while I read this flashcard to you. Like, no, we were acting out sermons, man. One time we did an Avengers series. I dressed up like the Incredible Hulk, ripping my shirt apart, painted myself green. I was fat still, so I ain't rip
It
all
just
the
it
way over.
made sense, right? Incredible Hulk, you're the
Yeah,
biggest guy
yeah.
in there. You might as well.
So I mean, yeah, bro. I, it's hard. It happens so fast. I didn't even realize like I wasn't tough no more. Like I wasn't like the way people see me. People see me now. Like I said, they be like, man, I can't even imagine you were ever out there. And then the people that knew me, like, do your church know the demon time you used to be on? Like, they let you teach kids? And it's like it's crazy, but I don't know. The only explanation is God, man. It was like something about working with kids. It just took all of that malice I had in my heart, that regret I had from not being able to provide for my mom the way I wanted to. That like it was just gone when I was with these kids, man, and showing these kids who God is and what God's love is like. I didn't even realize I was ministering to myself every week, and I think that's what was really happening.
Wow. Through service, you are receiving the healing that you are looking for. That's crazy. So, as a question that I had as you were speaking is, do you just naturally have that gift of teaching and training because you in the firearms world, you're not just a manufacturer. You also do have the school, Smart Shooters LLC, where you guys do some basic instruction, which I think is fantastic that you are providing that service to your local community. But as far back as when you were a young man working in youth ministry, that's part of it. I don't know if you did any training when you were working in warehouses. For those who didn't watch the previous conversation, you mentioned that you worked for Oh my gosh, what was the organization where you got all your skills and knowledge?
That was Amway.
Working at Amway. Did you do any training in Amway, or did you skip over that?
Absolutely. So from learning how to teach with my mom was a youth teacher, so I got to watch that at least once a week. Once I got into the workforce, I just kind of had a natural gift for it. And so every job I had, I ended up being some type of trainer or some type of lead trainer. Or whenever the new guy came, they were like, you need to shadow Daryle because Daryle can break stuff down to you. I had notes on everything I did because that's how I got results. Believe it or not, like in manufacturing, it's crazy. Everybody tries to reinvent stuff, and I'm like, I just come to work and do the same thing the same way every day, and that consistency gets me results. Um, Fast forward to working at Amway, they were like, well, what you're developing is actually called standard works or standard operating procedures. So you have step by step, this is what to do. Then this is if something deviates, this is your response plan to it. They gave me the language that I needed to actually articulate what it is I was good at. And so from there, it always pushed me into leadership positions, supervisor positions, operations manager positions, because for me, everything had to have a process. Like I learned about things like center line, like starting your machine at the same settings every day. And then anytime you deviate, you document why you deviated. And if that makes sense every time we have that problem, let's make that the new standard, right? They taught me working in manufacturing how to articulate that language that I've later gone to use even in Rostic Arms. Like the way we build ARs is the same way every time. The way that we package stuff is the same way every time. And if we deviate, we document it. Why did we deviate from the process? If that issue that we deviated for is a common issue, then maybe we need to change the standard. So working in manufacturing kind of gave me that. So by the time I get to this opportunity to lead youth, and that's just 2015, 2016, like this is really what I do. I'm just breaking it down for the kids. And just being honest, I'm cooler than the people that they were dealing with beforehand because I'm still coming to church wearing retros, wearing the kids love when I wear anything designer. If I got a Gucci belt or a Louis Vuitton scarf or something, that used to be the thing. Like, can I take a picture with your scarf? Like kids, you'd be surprised at how that stuff impacts kids because that's what they see people rapping about. And I just casually played in that lane, not heavy, but I mean, you just sprinkle a little bit here, a little bit there, mix it with some Old Navy, as a matter of fact, and you got a nice looking fit. And like kids used to flock to stuff like that. And Mr. Daryle, you always got the new retros. And I'm like, that's just from being, you got to keep your sneakers clean. That was law on the block. So little things like that, having that polishedness of education and training, and then still mixing my little flavor with it. Like kids just flock to it, especially teenagers, because they felt like it was relatable. Like, oh man, you at least look like me, you dress like me. So you got to be able to understand me better than the guy that's coming in a three-piece suit every day.
Wow. I I understand what you're trying to say with that because I used to work with kids a little bit more than I do now. I still work with kids on Sunday, but there was a program that I was part of where it was the kids from the city, and we would hang out after school. We would do stuff. We could set up some games or something like that. Things that kids are mostly okay with doing. You'd be surprised. Well, not you, but most people would be surprised what kids who are 13, 14, 15 are willing to do game wise. That I'm like,
Hmm.
back, I don't know, that might be a little corny. Like we're running down the strip to get this and then pick this up and we're gonna put this on our head and run back. Are we really doing that? And they would line up and do it and be like, okay,
Hmm.
all right, I guess I gotta do it too. Let's go. And then man, and I'm so glad that those kids could see you doing it and not see you, here's the thing. A lot of the times when the things that are appealing to young people are occurring, like, hey, nice pair of sneakers. The man knows how to dress. He's got some fashion. He's got the some style. That's a dude who's made 100 grand last year, killing somebody. Like, mm,
Right.
mm.
Right.
But now you're kind of having kind of pushed away from that lifestyle. You said, "Hey, God, like, give me a chance to get this right. I'll try to get this right, but you got to help me out, all right?" And then seemingly it's starting to work. You're getting opportunities, and
Mm.
the kids are like, "Hey, this guy, he's here. He's teaching us about the Lord, and he knows how to dress." Eh, Hey, bro, can I get your scarf real quick? I'm gonna take a picture with that scarf.
Yeah,
Hey, bro,
man.
can I borrow your shoes? What? What are you saying?
Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah. How old were the kids that you were working with?
So, I worked with 12 and under. So I worked with elementary school, K through 5 or K through 6, and then it went to K through 5 because 6th grade started middle school. So I had the elementary school kids. The kids to me, that's really the most impressionable, right? Like that's where you
Yes.
get the foundation of how you're going to carry yourself. Because middle school becomes the show and prove era, like you know what I mean. And by high school, that's where things go left because you're usually trying to establish your name in the street at that point. But elementary school is just so the kids are still innocent, even the bad kids, right? Like they're just misguided. Like you said,
Yeah, there's
there's
time.
people who see they see the nice sneakers, the designer clothes, the whatever. Um and God was always blessing me in ways where I could show them I didn't have to get it how you thought. Like I used to drive a 740 Beamer. Like I had a 740 BMW, and they used to be like, "Whoa!" But the crazy thing is, an older gentleman at the church who's now my business mentor. I shouldn't call him older. Stan would kill me if I called him older. But
I mean, he's older than you.
yeah, yeah. And but he gave it to me for
Oh,
free. Like I used to drive an old school Cadillac, and when it went down, he told his wife, "I think he need a car," and he kept texting me like, "Hey, come check this Beamer out," because he had three, and I was just like, "Yeah, but my money ain't really there. Like I don't got the money to buy no BMW, man. Like I'm finna go find a Pontiac Grand Prix somewhere." And
right.
then he finally texted me. I was like, "Who said anything about paying for it?" I just said, "Come check it out." And I came and checked it out, and he was like, "All right, now I'm gonna follow you home. You can go get your tags on Monday." And like, I was like, "Yo, somebody gave me a Beamer." Like, it was
It's
crazy. So
crazy,
now the
bro.
kids are they seeing Mr. Daryle pull up in the Beamer, and I'm like, "Yo, let me tell you what God did so that I'm actually in this car. Like, I didn't do this. Like God, and He did it in a
Wow.
way." Where that very person the same person you see in them suits that you think you can't relate to, that's the person who blessed me with this car. And so teaching them things like you don't have to earn your blessings. There are blessings that will come to you just for being in the right place at the right time. And I tell them, had I been in the hood, I would have missed that blessing, right? Because I wasn't where I was supposed to be. And so it was a great opportunity to testify to these kids and just show them like the very thing y'all think is so dope, God gave it to me. Like I didn't earn it, I didn't hustle for it, even though, like I said, people know who I am. They parents know who I am. Like they know what I used to be into, but now they get to see it in a whole different light.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's crazy to see somebody completely turn their life around. Obviously, we give glory to God for that because it didn't have to be
Yeah,
that way. But
glory to God.
to know that you said, you know what, I'm gonna take this opportunity. And now, how did you let's talk about opening the door because maybe somebody didn't watch the last interview or the sit
Hmm.
down conversation we had. It was Thursday night. We go live on Thursdays from time to time for those who are wondering, and we do hangout sessions or kickback depending on what I feel like calling it that day. I should probably go ahead and write it down, have my SOP, and figure out why I'm deviating from the name so that we can do it right every time. I'm not making fun of you, I swear. But so, um, but the last time we talked, it was during one of those just hangout sessions, And you mentioned like, hey, so I was working for an organization. They taught me everything I know about manufacturing and the processes of manufacturing. And this is one of the
Mm-hmm.
biggest, most like powerful companies that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Like Amway is nuts. They've
Yep.
somehow found a
Yep.
way to convince people to join their pyramid scheme. And I'm not saying it's purely a pyramid scheme, but they found a way. They
No,
found a
they
way.
are the pyramid. They are the all capital letters. When you talk pyramid schemes, everybody says Amway.
Bro, here's the thing. I've been the amount of memes about like pyramid schemes where that friend you haven't talked to in a long time invites you to come by for a little get together, and you pull up and you hear them start talking about, all right, now if you get your three friends and then they get their three friends, that's when you really start making money. And you're like,
Right, right.
the song starts playing in your head and you're like, let me just turn around. They ain't seen me
Let
yet.
go home. Right, get up out of there.
It's not too late. And then, but then you hear a whiff. You catch a whiff of some crazy plan where, if you do this right, you get free vacations for life, and you're like, dang, free vacation for life. And then they suck you in. So
That
here's the question: at what point did you transition to actual to Rostic from manufacturing? Like, what was that transition like?
so during my manufacturing career, manufacturing is very hard on the body. So I'm working. I mean, I'm making $1,500 a week, but I'm working 80, 90 hours to do it. Manufacturing, like I always laugh. People who worked on the manufacturing floor was like, we're the ones who actually make the product, so we should get paid the most. And people don't realize like physical labor is literally it's like the cheapest form of labor because it's the easiest to replace. Right? Like if you're stacking boxes, true enough, you're driving high low, you're moving boxes around, but that is literally like the cheapest level of value add. And so the people who really were valued were the people who were thinking in those front offices. And so I always used to always dream like, how do I get in the front office? And I applied and I got turned down for every reason. I got turned down because I didn't have a college degree. I got turned down simply because I wasn't polished enough. So I went signed up for Toastmasters so I could learn how to speak the language. I took Toastmasters and
What is
now all of a sudden
Toastmasters? I've heard the name before. Forgive me for being ignorant.
you're good. Toastmasters is really just a program that it teaches you how to talk, how to speak the language, man. Like it teaches you how to be more polished, more well-rounded, and I completely have lost almost all the fundamentals I've built in my speech until it's time to do business, right? Like people who do business with me, shout out to anybody that distributes Rostic Arms or dealers for Rostic Arms. They're like as soon as that door shuts and the meeting starts, I turn into a different person, and they get to see that. But it's really just a program that teaches you how to talk, right? And it teaches you things like making eye contact, something I still struggle with. Like even in the camera, I still sometimes I look down when I talk because I don't know, it's just a bad habit. Sometimes I feel like I don't even deserve to be in the spot I'm in. So, but it teaches you how to get rid of all of those types of habits. And so, but I still was getting turned down for jobs. They didn't care. Amway was paying for me to go to Toastmasters, and I still was getting turned down for jobs. And it was like, oh, it's your habits. Like you cuss when you talk, or yeah, you're dressed up, but you still sag your pants a little bit. And so it was like there was always something. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just start my own thing. Like I could take the same skills that I'm building here and just do my own thing. So that's when I jump into entrepreneurship. Still working, right? Don't quit your day job until your business pushes you off. But I decided to start my own shoe company. So I go find an Italian manufacturer who will work with me to create my own sneaker. And now in my mind, I'm gonna be the black Gucci. And then I get these shoes, I invest X thousands of dollars into it. Everybody's liking it and commenting on Facebook and Instagram. Nobody's buying it. So now I'm mad and I'm like, bro, y'all let me spend all this money and y'all not gonna support me. And that's when one of my good friends in finance she was like, people don't want it. Because if they wanted it, people will overdraft bank accounts. They will max out credit cards for things they want. If they're telling you, oh, yeah, I don't get paid till Friday, that is the polite way to say, I don't want it. Because if they wanted it, they would find a way.
Wow.
So I'm like, dang, now I got to take the loss sitting on all these shoes. So I'm selling them pair by pair here and there. I started making clothing to match the shoes, and then that started taking off. Then I was like, huh, so maybe I should just sell clothes. So I had a little faith-based clothing line. It's doing numbers. You can still see the Instagram. It's G127 collection. So the G127 collection was my faith-based clothing line. We came out with a shirt that said "I am Black History" on it. We did like a Martin theme to it, and you can see it all over Pinterest and stuff now because people have stolen that shirt design and ran with it. It's crazy. Um, it is so crazy. But
Yeah, because I know I've
anyway,
seen that before, but I didn't know it was your design.
absolutely. So if you look at the originals, in the corners it says G127, and then on the other one side it says PCGS, which is parachute gear. That was my brother's clothing line because we collaborated on it. So
Hmm.
um but like I said, now it's been duplicated and ripped. I didn't know nothing about trademarking or copywriting or any of that back then.
Hmm.
I was hustling, right? It gave me the fix because people were calling me 2, 3 in the morning. Hey, meet me at Speedway. I need one of them shirts. And so I was like, let's get it. Fast forward, we start going over numbers like, man, so we sold well over 1,000 of these shirts in like 3 months. And I'm like, this is crazy. But look at the numbers. We not really eating. The people that screen printing for us is making the most money. I wonder what it take to screen print. So I went and I kicked it with my pastor, and I'm like, yo, I think I'm about to start a screen print company. He was like, oh, well, the church does shirts every month for that match his sermon. He was like, let's do this together. Let's try this and see how it go. I said, okay. So he was like, well, what equipment we gonna get? I'm like, I already bought it. He was like, bet. We got a space in the back of the church. Just come to the back of the church, put your business there. I was like, yo, rent free at that. So again, shout out to my pastor. He changed my
Heck
life.
yeah, that's freaking awesome. Like rent free, it doesn't get
Yeah.
much better than that.
Except I got in over my head, bro. Like I suck, bro. And he told me I was gonna suck. And I'm like, nah, we finna go to the top because I'm designing shirts, I'm making shirts, and like all I gotta do is make them myself now. Screen printing was a beast. Like, oh my God. If I could go back in time, I'll smack myself like, bro, keep outsourcing it. Your margins are fine. But I wanted bigger margins. I wanted more business. And so I started off in the church and eventually grew to getting my own shop. And of course, me being who I am, I put my shop right in the middle of the hood. Um, and so people are walking up getting shirts made. I'm doing RIP shirts. I'm doing baby shower shirts. And the business is growing. It's booming. It's doing this thing. And I quit these jobs. This is all I'm doing. Then COVID hits. Um, and Michigan governor shut down any business that they didn't deem essential, would shut down every supplier that I had for shirts, for ink, for um, any of the cleaning solutions. The governor, if they were on this list that they deemed essential, then they got shut down. So I was gonna try to keep hustling through COVID anyway, except once I ran out of t-shirts, I didn't know what to do. So now I'm like, man, I got to move the business back home. I can't afford to pay the lease because I can't stay open. So I'm tripping. My world is crashing. I don't know how to make money because nobody's outside. At this point, 2020, I'm so far removed from the streets. Like I couldn't conduct something if I wanted to. Like I would sell straight to an undercover at this point because I'm so out of the loop. Um, And then I get COVID and I almost died. Like I'm on in the hospital on the ventilator, and I made a promise to God. I was like, if you get me up, I'm only gonna do what I really want to do. I'm not gonna chase the money. I'm not gonna go after all the weird side hustle things. Like I'm only gonna do what I want to do, and I'm gonna do it good enough where I can spend every day with my kids. So I get out the hospital. I'm still on quarantine. My wife's crying. She don't know what's gonna happen because COVID is scary at this point. And I was like, what can I do that I love that's essential that nobody could ever shut down? Um, ever. And I'm like, dang. But throughout this whole story I've been telling you, I'm also the gun guy for my friends, right? Because that's what in the streets. I was one of the only people without a felony, so I was the only one who could own guns like that. And so I'm showing my friends how to shoot at the range and stuff. And I don't even really know what I'm doing. I watch old videos. We used to have a gun club called Brothers Who Shoot. I'm watching videos with me teacupping, and it's disgusting. But I was just trying to teach my homies, like, yo, we could do guns legally and responsibly.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And so I was like, how do I get certified? Found USCCA, made a phone call. Drove all the way to Iowa for a 2-day course with a mask on. And just like that, Smart Shooters was born.
Okay. So I want to backtrack just a little bit because you mentioned
Yep.
you started the shoe company with an Italian shoe manufacturer.
It
Unfortunately,
was going to be the Black Gucci, bro.
gonna be the black Gucci, but it was ahead of its time. That's the nice way to say it, right?
Yep,
And
yep, yep.
like you said, people say, "Well, I get paid next Thursday, so I'm gonna get it when I get paid." Such a nice way to say, "I'm good, bro." Such a
Right.
nice way to say it. Do you just as a guy who still continues to hustle, you still have a few different businesses that you own and operate, or do you just really own a Rostic and Smart Shooters at this point?
No, I do some other things like
I know you
I
did
mean
some
my wife,
consulting.
yeah, I do some business consulting and things like that. And that is a huge chunk of income is the outside things, right? But it doesn't matter because I just take all that money and dump it in Rustic Arms at this
I
point.
mean,
So
that's how it works, though. You know,
right.
one for me, one for you. I'm gonna take this and go ahead and pay for that. People solve.
Absolutely.
But do you ever feel, and this is kind of one of those existential questions, do you ever feel like, man, when the months are kind of slow with selling rifles, or when no one's booking a class, man, I thought people wanted this firearms training, but it's not too close to an election yet, so they're not hyping things up, and people aren't super excited to go
Right.
get a gun. The industry has ebbs and flows, right? Do you ever feel like,
Hmm.
dang, I'm in this situation again? Are these shoes going to sit? Are these guns going to sit? Are we? Can we fill a class? Do you ever feel like that?
Every day.
Yeah,
Every day. That is every day, bro. Like the reality is so many new rifle companies go under in the first year or two.
yeah.
Right here today, gone tomorrow. There's 3 rifles that I own that I couldn't get a warranty filled on them if I wanted to because the companies don't exist anymore. Um, I feel like that all the time. The thing that gives me peace is God has been consistent in my life no matter what I've done. Rather I was, trying to move a little weed bag or selling t-shirts or God has always been consistent. And so the people around me will never let me fail. Like my mother-in-law, super dope. My best friend, like shout out to my mom. She, especially since my mom died, she's really been there for me. And she won't like she's like, whatever you doing, let me know. Whatever you need, let me know. I remember the first store that was put in a big order for Rostic Arms. I didn't even have enough money to cover making the rifles. I was like, I didn't know they were gonna order that many. She was like, "What do you need? When do you drop them off? Let's make it happen. If all you need is a couple dollars, like it's people around you with a couple dollars, right?" And so that's me being transparent enough to even say, like, I wasn't even prepared for the blessing I was negotiating for. And I'm like, ooh, I didn't negotiate these terms right. I told them pay on delivery. I should have had them pay up front. Cause now I'm like, they ordered X amount of rifles. How do I fulfill that? And so God is consistent, bro. And like I believe, whether you believe in God or you don't, that's your business. But I can tell you, no matter what you're doing in life, consistency always is the key, man. If you just be consistent, a door will open for you. And so when it's slow, when I'm like, I don't know if there's a class that we can fill. If there was a class where I had 19 students, and then literally the day before the class, 13 students canceled or rescheduled. I don't know what that was about. But I was like, even if we got to teach it at a loss, I'm gonna give them 6 students the best class, best intro to firearms class they ever had. And then I made a post on Facebook like, man, I had some cancellations. If anybody's interested, and I literally had so many signups that the class was full again. And so God is consistent, bro. And rather, like I said, the universe, I'm gonna say God, you can say whatever you want to, but as long as you don't give up, like it's gotta work out. There's months where it's slow, there's months where it booms. It's gotta work out. Like, you know what I mean? It's got to. I look at the cash flow I got tied into these rifles, and I'm just like, oh my God. Like some months I'd be like, this doesn't even make sense. And it's like, but at the same time, God is so faithful that I had the money to have the cash flow tied into these rifles, and I'm really just one opportunity away. That's why we do things like the shot shows or going to the regular gun guy event. We just need the right person to see our stuff, and it's off to the moon after that, right? I believe that, and so that's what keeps me going. But even if Rostic Arms and Smart Shooters fail tomorrow, I mean, bro, I had a shoe. Like, you know what I mean? I sold T-shirts, like, I and fed my family with it. Like, bro, if that's not God being faithful, like, I don't know what to call it.
I don't know what to call it either. Now, you mentioned getting in front of the right people and things really taking off. And anybody who's followed your journey, especially on Instagram, like I know Instagram is kind of trash, but they should
Yep,
definitely
yep,
follow you on IG because you have a lot of wisdom and you're sharing a lot of the wins that you guys have. So definitely recommend it. It's been posted in the show notes, and I'll try to post it in the description after we get done here. That said, let's give a quick shout out to some of the people, at least some of the big names that have caught on
yeah,
and given you that social proof that is required to win, such as, well, you go
yeah.
ahead and name them out.
I mean, the first shout out that I gotta give is to my brother Black Rambo. Right? I didn't know Black Rambo. I met him at SHOT Show. I knew who he was. He had no reason to know who I was. I met him at SHOT Show, and it's so crazy. I met him with Nina Del Flores and Mark Chopper, and they were walking through SHOT Show. They had no idea who I was. I had my Rostic Arms hoodie on. This is SHOT Show 23. And I'm on the phone with my brother, and I'm like, bro, I think I see Black Rambo. And Mark Chopper was like, yo, Black Rambo show love, bro. And I remember Rambo's on the phone. He was like, yeah, let's take a picture real quick. Like, so I took a picture with him, and he was like, hey, yeah, who you with? And I had the Rostic Arm stuff on. He was like, bet. He was like, I'm gonna tap in with you. Uh, and then Nina Del Flores, shout out to her, sweetheart. Um, she followed me, and I was like, yo, I just met like the people who doing this. Black Rambo, full circle, comes around. I put this rifle out, and I'm like, I send him a text. I'm like, bro, I need you. Like, I got this rifle. I need, and he was like, bro, that's not even a question. So I'm like, how much do you charge? And he was like, for you, nothing. And that was huge to me, cause Black Rambo, I I I I got figures from what I've heard that other companies are paying him, and it ain't just free guns. Like, but that brother making a living doing this thing, so he didn't have to mess with me.
For
But
sure. It's a beautiful
then
thing.
he seen the rifle, like, can I keep it? I was like, yeah, bro. When I tell you, he posted it, and like the calls and the inquiries just started coming in, right? The crazy thing was a lot of it just kind of dissolved after that first couple days, but it was still like, bro, we on Black Rambo page, like, and he didn't take it down. It wasn't like $20 for a 24-hour story or something like that. He did this all off the love. So shout out to Black Rambo. Um, then I gotta go to Clint, bro. Clint from Classic Firearms has become one of my dopest friends, man. Uh, Same thing. He didn't have to do what he did. I did a super chat because I'm a fan of Classic Firearms anyway. So I did a super chat on YouTube. The power of this network and stuff, right? I could talk a whole day about that. Like, people don't use social media, right? But I'm on YouTube. I send a super chat and say, hey, listen, I'm new getting into this AR manufacturing space. What's some advice you got for me? And in the midst of him kicking me advice, he was just like, yo, I can send me one and I'll test it and I'll give you feedback and so on and so forth. I'm not thinking nothing of it. And he was like, DM me. And I'm sitting there and my wife was like, if he said DM him, then DM him. Shoot him a DM, being obedient. And he hit me like, hey, yeah, I remember you from the YouTube chat and whatever. Like, what you got going? So I'm telling him, and he's like, send me one. I'm like, what specs do you want? He's like, whatever you want to send me, that's what I'm gonna run. So of course we give him the RA15 premium. I'm nervous. I'm testing the crap out of this gun. Cause I'm like, please God, don't let this be the one where something happens, right? Cause I'm still at this point, I'm learning my distributors. I'm learning, I'm working with vendors I met at SHOT Show on small parts, components, and stuff. Like, I'm not throwing Anderson parts kits in my stuff. Like, I'm getting people that's OEM manufacturing it for us. So I'm praying that they're reliable. Man, Clint gets the gun. He loves it. So he's giving me feedback. He ran one mag unsuppressed. Everything else has been suppressed. He's hundreds of rounds, almost 1,000 rounds into it still, and just loving it. And he just wanted to borrow it. Like, he was just like, I'll send it back to you. And I was like, nah, please keep it. Like, so then he starts posting videos, shooting it, and oh my God. I'm just watching it run. And of course, the YouTube, I love YouTube comments, man, because there's somebody's like, man, that gun's so overgassed and blah, blah, blah. And the average person who complains about guns being overgassed doesn't even shoot enough to get the wear and tear on their parts that they would complain about. So I just was like, whatever. Like, I can live with those types of comments. Because more than that, he's bringing me business, right? And every week, tonight even, he goes live on Monday nights. And when people ask him for affordable AR suggestions, he's always throwing out Rostic arms, like always throwing out Rostic arms. Kaya shouting out Rostic arms. Aaron is getting, I got one coming for him so he can test it out. Uh, and Jason doesn't get enough credit for everything he does. So shout out to Jason, because he jumped on live on Instagram live with me one night and we had a conversation, and just his level of knowledge, it I was able to take nuggets from a 5 minute conversation and up the quality of our guns. And so I always tell him, like, bro, you don't get the acknowledgement you deserve for what you're doing. Even to be a part of Classic Firearms as a black man, I think is major. So that whole crew is like putting me on in a major way, man. So shout out to them.
Yeah, gotta show love to Major and that's a Freudian slip. Gotta show love to Jason and that that dude might be a savant. Like if I'm being for real, like he is so
Mhm.
dialed in. I'm like, well, what did you do? Were you like special forces? I don't think he did anything. I just think he's just really dialed in and understands everything there is to know. Like he's forgotten more about guns than I've come to learn yet,
Right,
and
right.
that's a beautiful thing. I do just want to take a second to acknowledge those people who have tuned in with us so far. We're about to transition over to locals, but there's a few things we've got to get through before we do all that. Our
Let's do
locals
it.
community, armedatlas.locals.com. We love to continue the conversation over there. I want to talk, when we get over that, I want to talk about Michigan and some of the gun laws that have been enacted and how you guys are battling that. And of course, we'll post a clip after the fact. So if you're listening on podcast, make sure that you click the link over. You can watch it for free. I'm going to try to make sure you guys can watch it in a convenient way. But shout out, just once again, shout out to the guys who have gone out of their way to support you, to support the show. Your show, Smart Shooters, support your brand with, Rostic Arms, shooting your guns, even just talking about the guns. I know for myself, like we've not come to a point where we've tested your rifle yet, but I'm excited, bro. Especially when I saw the
Yeah.
woodland design, I was like, "Ooh, that's that's nice." It's just, man, I'm a sucker for a good Cerakote. That's
Yeah. Hey, listen, we all are, bro. And that there's little things that, I know from being a consumer first
mm-hmm.
that I know sells rifles, and aesthetics is a big one,
It's a
right?
big thing
Like
because everybody sells a black gun. Everybody sells a black rifle.
everybody sells black guns.
Yeah. Yeah. So, guys, thank you so much for dumping questions in here. We got plenty of questions. We're going to save those questions, or some of them are comments, for when we go over to the local stream. But I just want to remind everybody, make sure you're following Daryle Rostic over at Rostic Arms. Of course, he's got a few other
Yeah.
pages, but Rostic Arms, I think, is the main one that you're on recently. And let me just take 1 second to promote what we do. If you like gun content, just like Smart Shooters LLC, where they review guns, I review guns too. Don't forget it. So, guys, make sure you click that little QR code right there. Or if you just go to youtube.com/armedatlas, you can check out some of our gun reviews, some of the shorts that we put out recently. I'm really proud of. And there's a review coming on the Canic Rival, and it's mostly good. There's one little thing that you should know about it. So keep an eye out for that. And I think you'll be happy with the time that you spent with me on the Gun Channel. So let's go ahead and let Daryle tell you a little bit about where you can find him one more time, and then we're going to head over to armedatlas.locals.com. Link is in the live chat. It's pinned to the top. And of course, if you're on the podcast side, please go ahead and click the link in the show notes. Head over there and let's get this thing going. Daryle, so if you just let people know where they can find you one more time, and we'll get going.
You
Go
can
ahead.
find me at Rostic Arms on all platforms, Smart Shooters LLC on all platforms, or Daryle Rostic on all platforms. I try to keep it simple. We're on Instagram, Facebook. I don't really do the Twitter thing or X or whatever, but YouTube is a big one. YouTube is going to be exciting because we're actually going to start showing the behind the scenes of what it's like to run Rostic Arms. And so I'm really, really excited. Like, I'm going to take people to the machine shop with us, let them see what it's like, how we deal with things when they're out of spec. Like, it's going to be a journey, man. It's going to be on the Smart Shooters LLC YouTube channel. That's actually going to be our paid experience. I think it's only like $4 a month. And we're going to show people what it's really like. So when people say, man, you're doing my dream, I'm going to let you see if it's really a dream. But tap in with us on all platforms, man. Rostic Arms. Wrong side. Rostic Arms. and get with me, man.
All right. So once again, guys, make sure you tap in with him. And of course, thank you so much for being here. If you showed up with us live, that's awesome. You're awesome. I appreciate you. I see some of you got a chance to watch with us, and that's awesome. But make sure the pinned link, hop over there with us. Let's continue this conversation. And of course, as we always say, keep it costly.